Is Felgren Maz your favorite afternoon show?
Yes, 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 yes.
Felgren and Maz.
Where does Boston find offense right now? They have struggled. But the question is for Boston, when they don't shoot the ball well, how do they grind wins? And right now, that percentage is in that range where when they've been at 30%, they have not won games in this series.
It is an agenda-free Friday. Mike and Tony out today, so it's Jim Murray, Cerrone Battle, Michael Hurley, and it's time for Chris Gasper, who joins the show each and every Friday in the 4 o'clock hour. Chris Gasper brought to you by Premier Basement Waterproofing. May is here. And as it warms up, call our guys for crawl space encapsulation before the humidity comes. And don't forget, if you're moving into a new home, remodeling, or own a Cape House, Gasper, get that French drain jackhammered now before the summer storms and rental season. To schedule with Grace, call 844-LIVE-DRY or visit premierbasement.net. It's game over for water. Gasper, you wanted to hear that sound, but first let me ask you, considering you're the same man who wrote in the Boston Globe, hammer v. nail, ice cream cone v. summer sunshine, Red Sox v. public relations fallout. That's the nature of the playoff rivalry between the Celtics and 76ers, which is to say it really isn't one. Also said, if it went 6 games, pshaw, that's no really reason to get nervous or anything. I ask you, you nervous now? Did he just freeze up?
I am having some technical issues here, Jim, with the microphone here. I don't know. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you fine now. Yep. Yeah, it just froze up there for a second. But if
okay. All right. Yeah, I can hear you guys, but it's not coming in through my headphones. It's coming in through the laptop. So, yes, that column obviously not looking great now. What was the question again?
Are you nervous now that we're facing a Game 7? Because even I remember you saying, like, I've even won 6 games in this series. No reason to really worry, guys.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised that it got pushed to 6. I thought there'd be a game. I thought Quentin Grimes or somebody of his ilk would have the type of game that he had. And then obviously they were 19-39 from 3 in game 2. So that was kind of an anomaly. I am surprised, though, that the way that they performed in game 6 in Philadelphia, that surprised me that they didn't bounce back. I still think they're going to win the series because I still think some of the things you read in that column are sort of true from the standpoint of Embiid and the Celtics. And Embiid certainly has a chance to change that narrative, and he's admitted he's tired of losing to the Celtics, but he's done a lot of losing to the Celtics. He's now 5-13 in the playoffs against them. This series, to me, is really more about the Celtics than the Sixers. Look, I give the Sixers credit for playing as hard as they've played, the adjustments that they've made, for not giving in and not giving up. But I think we all would agree that if the Celtics are performing at their peak level, that's better than what the Sixers can offer. The issue here is that the Celtics aren't doing that. They're not doing that. I mean, the last 2 games, you've had quarters. You had an 11-point fourth quarter and a 14-point third quarter. And those are things that have absolutely killed them. And I think that when you look at it from that standpoint, you know, it's very challenging if you're the Celtics, if they're going to play like this to get through the series.
With this series, this matchups, some of the matchups, player v. player, Paul George, I think, is averaging shooting over 50% and over 45%, something like that from 3. When are we going to see, will we get an opportunity to see Jaylen Brown or Jayson Tatum or one or the other take Paul George out of the game? Who's going to make him struggle to score, struggle to shoot? And I know he's an older guy. He's missed a lot of games this season. Is there any way he comes back down to reality and not have these hot shooting nights that he's had the last 3 games or so?
Yeah, and it's interesting, Cerrone, what you said, you know, the last 3 games. What does that coincide with? The return of Embiid and sort of the focus on Embiid to a certain degree. And the Celtics have to do a better job of guarding their yard. I think that's been a problem the last couple of games. And George has done a good job of getting to his spots and making shots. I would put that one sort of on Jaylen Brown. Like, he has to take that personally and take that matchup personally on the defensive end and close that down. That certainly has been an issue for them, and I don't dispute it, but I'm more worried about, you know, offensively what's happened with them, scoring under 100 points, the lack of efficiency in what you're seeing, the fact you've gotten really nothing offensively from Derek White this whole series. And that's one of the things, just quickly on him, Missoula said earlier, well, Derek White, if you are criticizing Derek White, and I'm paraphrasing, you don't care about winning. Derek White makes a ton of winning plays. There's no question about it. But if it's just going to be about energy plays and offensive rebounds and chase down, I can get Jordan Walsh to do that stuff. What separates Derek White is that he does all that stuff and scores and can get his own shot and can knock down shots. And he showed some signs of life, I think, in Game 6. But they're going to need more offensively because their offense, particularly in these fourth quarters, and it happened in Game 2 where Maxey outscored Brown and Tatum combined. It happened in Game 5 where they had the 11-point fourth quarter. The game was basically a blowout, and Joe waved the white flag with 10:24 to go last night. But there's these times in these fourth quarters where they just can't generate offense if the three ball is not going. And that was that Robbie Hummel bite that we played from the beginning of it. And if you're not going to be able to do that, then there's going to be a major problem for the Celtics. Because I think offensively, if they're doing what they're doing, then even if Paul George is having a good series, they can still win the games. But if offensively they can't execute the way we've seen them execute for most of the season, then yeah, you're going to have a problem when Embiid's doing his thing, Maxey's doing what he did last night, 30 points, no turnovers, and to your point, Paul George is getting to all his spots and knocking down his shots.
So if I'm hearing you right, and you've mentioned this before, that this is all a big part of them having an identity crisis, and they're catering too much to Jayson Tatum and his comeback and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think Tatum's had a very good series. You could even say he's had a great series. Now, again, I think some of the fourth quarters he hasn't played well. I would point out Game 2 and Game 5 as fourth quarters. I think he had 0 points in one of those, and he hit 1-3 in another. But overall, he's had a really good series. He's played the best of any Celtic in this series. I think the problem is that this is a team that developed a different identity and played a different way for 62 games, and really longer than that, because after he came back, they integrated him in. And so what they do best is not necessarily what puts him in a position to be his best self. He's had a great series. The Celtics haven't had a great series. And that's not necessarily on Jayson Tatum, but I think it's something that Joe Mazzulla has to recognize, which is, okay, we're playing a certain way and we're getting a lot out of Jayson Tatum, which you say on paper, okay, if we get a lot out of Jayson Tatum, we should win this series. And yet you are getting a lot out of Jayson Tatum, and the team overall is not performing the way it needs to perform. And some of that certainly is on Jaylen Brown. Too many offensive fouls, too many turnovers, not great efficiency in the fourth quarters of these games. But what I see is they've reverted back to what they were before, which is a lot of Tatum-centric. Even though Jaylen Brown leads them in usage percentage, it still is more Tatum-centric than it has been for most of this year. And a lot of threes. Do you know who leads this series in three-point attempts per game among all players on both sides?
It's Tatum.
It's Tatum. And he's shooting 36% from three. He's shooting 59% on two-point shots. And so it's not a coincidence that the Celtics have become more three-point dependent and more three-point focused the more he's become involved offensively. For me, the answer to that is whether it's Tatum or Brown, whichever one of those guys doesn't have the ball, can't just sit there and wait to get their turn. Both of them have to do more off of the ball. Cut to the basket, make your defender guard you without the basketball. Because you can see for both of them, like say when Jaylen Brown has the ball and he has a mismatch and he starts to go to work and Tatum's just kind of standing there waiting to see if he could do it. And if he can't, he'll take the ball and take his turn. That's what allows Philadelphia to just load up in layers on him, and vice versa. When Tatum has it and he comes off that pick and roll and Jaylen Brown's just kind of standing there in the corner, no cut, no movement, no nothing, and then Tatum comes off that pick and roll and goes to do his thing, and Philadelphia's loaded up and there's layers ready there to confront him. It's because it's basically like you're playing offense, 4-on-5, because the other guy's just going to stand there and watch when he doesn't have the ball. So they have to find a way to get both of those guys out of that.
The adjustments in, I think it was Game 3. You talk about the lack of adjustments and them doing the same things. I think it was in Game 3, fourth quarter. You saw them draw up plays. Tatum caught it in the post. You saw Jaylen Brown get some post-up layups. When it's working in the games they're winning, why is Mazzulla so hesitant to make these changes late in games, fourth quarters, to get this team over? Do you think he's being stubborn and just believes it's eventually that the numbers are just going to work out in his favor?
Yeah, Cerrone, I do feel, and it's sort of what happened in the Knicks series last year too. And obviously the injury to Tatum was devastating and unfortunate, but I think sort of what gets lost in that injury is that even before it happened, the way they were playing and what they were going to lose the series, in all likelihood. They were going to lose that series, and they're back to playing that way they were playing in that Knicks series, in this series. And it could cost them that series. And I've gotten in arguments with people before, fans, whatever, about Joe Mazzulla. And look, I wrote he should be coach of the year, and I believe that. I thought he did a great job during the regular season. But Joe's greatest strength, which is that he so fervently believes in what he's doing, and he's great at communicating it and teaching it and getting other guys to believe in it, is also his greatest weakness. And that he'll believe in it so much that, to your point, he won't change, and he won't change fast enough. He'll be too slow to change. And he admitted, I thought my colleague Gary Washburn had a really good column today sort of talking about Joe not making the adjustments, because Joe admitted after last night's game that the Sixers have made adjustments. So you look at it and say, well, where are your adjustments? What are you going to do now to respond to that? And we've seen this before. As good a coach as he is, and obviously has a championship to his name, every time he's been eliminated in the playoffs, he's had the better team. And the other coach being able to maneuver around him has been a factor in every single time he's been eliminated. And there's not a lot of times, I get it, but every single time it has happened. And when they won the championship, there were some adjustments, but how many adjustments under pressure did you have to make when your championship run didn't feature any series longer than 5 games?
All right, more with Chris Gasper. He is here for the hour here on Agenda Free Friday, here on Felger and Maz. You want to jump on? We have 2 open lines. I know a lot of you are still hot on the Celtics. And in fact, we're looking at a Game 7 tomorrow night between the Celtics and Sixers with a 7:30 tip-off. 617-779-0985 is the number to jump on. Again, 2 open lines here on Felger and Maz.
Whee! Goalie fight.
Felger.
Whee! Look at the goalie fight.
Whoa. Maz.
Oh, my God.
Murray.
He sucks in the playoffs. That's great. No.
98.5.
Wonderful. Good.
The Sports Hub.
Our intentions are good. Like we want to go out there and play the right way and win. It's just we just gotta be a little bit more together, a little bit tougher, play with more pace, play faster. How they have played majority of the season than since I've been back. Just kind of getting back to who we are.
4 o'clock hour on the Agenda Free Friday means we're joined by Chris Gasper of the Boston Globe. That was Jayson Tatum after last night's loss. And it's funny, I saw you write this in the email exchange, and now hearing it, boy, there is a real tell there, Chris. Let's play that again. So play that clip if you wouldn't mind again, Jay Stu, from Jayson Tatum.
Our intentions are good. Like we want to go out there and play the right way and win. It's just we just gotta be a little bit more together, a little bit tougher. Play with more pace, play faster. How they have played majority of the season than since I've been back. Just kind of getting back to who we are.
We became they pretty quickly.
It did, because they played a different style without him, and I think he recognized that as he was saying it. And that's the challenge for Joe Mazzulla, for Jayson Tatum, for the Celtics as a whole. How do they get back to that style play without him, which I think featured more ball movement? I mean, obviously, they're never a big pace team in terms of what the statistical definition of pace is. And I think when you listen to Pritchard or Jaylen Brown or Jayson Tatum talk about pace, they're not talking about that statistical definition. How many shots can we get up in 48 minutes? It's more the way the ball pops. Is the ball popping? Is the ball moving? And it's not. The ball's not popping. It's not moving. It's a lot of Jaylen and Jayson kind of surveying, doing their thing, making a decision, but it's all pretty slow. And when this group of Celtics is at their best, I think there's more dribble drive. The ball's moving more often. And that's, I think, what he's saying here is like they forged an identity, and we sort of have to get back to that. But how do you do that and still get the most out of Tatum? That is the challenge for Joe Mazzulla. And ultimately, this is going to sound weird, but I'm going to say, like, at the end of the day, in his mind, and I know Joe wants to win, but I'm just saying, when you look at it, where does your logically, where does your loyalty lie? Is it we got to put Jayson in the best position to succeed because that gives us the best chance to win? Or do you honestly look at this series through 6 games and say, you know what? What's best for him might not be best for us in this series against this team. We got to go back to the identity we had before, or at least closer to that identity.
What do you think, Chris? Because we talked about it earlier, the calf injury, which is 2 of the now dirtiest words in the NBA. Like, that's the scariest thing anyone can hear, calf injury, because you assume it precedes something bad. Even assuming it's not serious, there's just a psychological impact when it comes to how Tatum's going to come out tomorrow night. Do you think that's going to have any impact? Because remember when they went back to Madison Square Garden and he played there and he went down and he talked about how significant it was mentally to get past that hurdle. This is a different one, and it comes before a Game 7 must-win in the first round.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I commend him for how open he's been about what he's gone through and what he's feeling sort of emotionally. I think he'll be good. I'll just say this now, though. Like, I'll put my Felger hat on. You know, if he goes out and doesn't play well, like, this can't be Game 7, 2023 Eastern Conference Finals, where it's like he just gets a pass. It's like, oh, well, you know, he had the ankle injury, so it doesn't matter. It can't be that way. And to me, when I look at last night, there's part of me that looks at it and thinks, okay, you know, that game was out of reach and they wanted to be cautious, and he didn't really have much going on in the third quarter. The team didn't really have much going on in the third quarter, but they were like only down 15 when he came out in the third, and he never came back into the game. If he had it going and his shots were falling, would he have been out of the game? I'm not so sure that would have been the case.
Who'd it remind you of, Chris?
Kevin Durant. Ugh. I thought it was Kevin Durant-esque.
Katie-like.
I thought it was a Kevin Durant-esque tap out, to be honest with you. And that concerns me. And the reason I raised Durant here, and this goes back to the whole Jayson and Jaylen dynamic and why I feel like they need each other. Tatum is obviously the better player, the more skilled player. But if you go back to Game 5 in the fourth quarter when Tatum wasn't getting the foul calls he wanted and literally spent like one offensive possession and another defensive possession barking at the official and getting upset, and you look at some of this stuff, again, you know, last night, Jayson needs some of the toughness and the edge and the mental toughness that Jaylen Brown brings. You know, they really sort of need each other, because when I look at, has Kevin Durant ever been the emotional leader, mental toughness leader on a championship team? I mean, he's won championships, but was he ever that on those teams that he won a championship on?
Of course not. And now, the deeper we get into his career, this is why I shudder, because now I kind of look at him and go, pussy. Like, he's... I am not
Durant?
a fan.
Are you talking about Durant?
Yeah, Durant, yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's what I thought you were talking about, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. When you played the clip of Tatum, I kind of listened. I heard it differently.
Okay.
I kind of took it as the way y'all played when I wasn't here. That's regular season basketball. We need to get back to who we were. They were dead last. They were bottom 3 in the pace, with the physical pace, like you was talking about, Gasper. As far as up and down the court, they were near the bottom in assists. They were one of the worst passing teams. They were near the bottom in their tempo, and I think I read that as, you know, when I wasn't here, you know, then he was like, we just got to get back to Celtic basketball. We got to pace and all these other things. I kind of took it as the way y'all played when I wasn't here is not going to win a playoff series. That's good regular season basketball. Now we have to get back to who we were. We got to get up and down the court. We got to move the ball. We got to do all those things. I think he's clearly in the middle of that. He's a part of the problem as well. It's not like, oh, you guys got to figure it out. I'm good. No. He has to be better at those things as well. But I read that as like, we just got to get back to, you know, who we were. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I just took, when he played the second time, I'm like, he's talking about them as before he was there. Like, that's not going to work now. We can't Jaylen Brown do his thing and everybody kind of watch and we just play good defense and we're going to win games. It's got to be everybody touching the ball, moving fast, because I think the bench did that in the fourth quarter. They were all moving fast, and it startled Philly to the point they had to put some starters back in. I think that's what he means. You got to get back to playing that type of basketball. But either way, the adjustments have to be made. Tatum's got to be better. You're right, Gasper. He's got to be mentally tough. He's got to be more physical. He's got to be the one beating his chest, and Jaylen Brown has to be like Tatum when it comes to skill and efficiency. And they like you said, they both need each other, and everybody has to feed off that. And the rest of the role players, I think, they can't look at Tatum and say, yeah, we got Tatum back, and stand around and watch Jayson Tatum as opposed to playing basketball the way they did for the last 80 games. And I think they all have to get back to who they are as a basketball team.
Yeah, I mean, there might be. Look, the usage rate wise, Jaylen Brown is the second highest usage rate in the playoffs, behind only Cade Cunningham. I think that's too high.
Yeah,
especially on a team with Jayson Tatum. So I think Brown sort of has to take a step back and again do more off the ball, which is an adjustment based on what he was doing while Tatum was out overall. But I also think, Cerrone, where I would slightly disagree with you is like, Celtic basketball, as Tatum defines it, is what they played last year, and they were going to lose to the Knicks anyway. It's like, bombs away from three, and it's a lot of him pounding the ball into the floor. So if we're going back to that didn't work last year. And I feel like that's kind of what they're doing now and Robbie Hummel hit on that, is they're really dependent upon the two stars and a bunch of threes. And if that's not working, like, shoulder shrug. And that, for me, isn't going to work because they really doubled down on the way they played in 24. Last year, in 25, they shot themselves out of that Knicks series in the first two games, and they were going to lose that series, it appeared, unless they had some incredible comeback, whether he got injured or not. So that's my concern, is trying to evaluate it. What does he consider? And I'm not putting it all on him, but just what does he consider to be Celtic basketball? Is it what they were doing in 25? Because I don't think that's going to win Game 7 either. Obviously, what they're doing isn't working, but I think what they're doing is closer to that than what they did in the regular season. And maybe neither of those things will work. I don't know. But I don't have a high level of confidence in, let's just go back to what we were last year, when even though they beat Orlando in 5, like, that series was a lot tougher than it should have been. And then you shot yourself out of the Knicks series. You go back to that, I think you're going home.
Yeah, right now, Celtic basketball looks like bombs away from three, missing free throws, and getting pushed around by old bums. And that they are now in a 7-game series with Joel Embiid and Paul George, two of the all-time playoff losers. It's fail. Like, even if they go on to make the finals, it's a fail that they are in this spot. But your calls, I promise, a lot of you been hanging a while with Gasper after the headlines here with Michael Hurley on Felger and Mass.
Sean and Lawrence. Go, Sean.
You keep saying, like, oh, I didn't actually watch the game, whether it's Patriots, Celtics, Bruins, whatever. Like, isn't your job as a talk show host to actually watch sports?
So I would say my job is to get you to listen. That is the job. Mission accomplished.
Take this job and shove. Felger and Mass. 98.5, the Sports Hub.
An ugly couple of games for the Boston Celtics, but as the final seconds tick off the clock, as generations have before us, we're going to get a 7th game between the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers. The final score in Game 6, Philadelphia 106, Boston 93.
All right, your calls with Chris Gasper, the Boston Globe, with us for another 20 minutes here on Agenda Free Friday on Felger and Maz. Chris, and of course this, I think, takes a... Why is it go take the spinning wheel of death just when I try to go to the phone?
You love that French call screen.
Oh, it's just the worst, Chris. Chris in Maryland, though. You're next here on Felger and Maz. Hello.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I had a question. I've been watching the Celtics all season, and I've really enjoyed watching them. One of the things that I've enjoyed the most is watching how the young guys have all developed. Of course, I'm talking about Shireman and Gonzalez and Walsh, and Garza. And I'm wondering, why it is that Mazzulla has not worked those guys into the rotation in this series at all. Like Gonzalez has been stapled to the bench. I don't understand, why it is they're not bringing those guys out to at least, try and run the Sixers out of the building for a couple of minutes. I'm going to hang up and listen. Thanks, guys.
This is very reminiscent of, this is why I have a lot of beef and issues when it comes to Doc Rivers, because I think he cost them multiple championships. The Celtics, one of those years, I think it was the year they lost to the Lakers in 2011, whatever it was.
10.
10.
Yep.
They went through that season. The strength of the team was the bench, was the depth. It was, remember the Shrek and Donkey stuff with Nate Robinson and Big Baby?
Of course, yeah.
They were eating people alive. And even earlier in their runs, they had Tony Allen and all these other guys on the bench. I think one year the bench was Nate Robinson, Big Baby, Stephon Marbury was coming off the bench, Rasheed Wallace. They get to Game 7 against the Lakers, and he doesn't play the bench at all. And they asked him, well, how come the guys were saying, oh, I've never been this tired in my career. And they asked Doc Rivers, so I'm just going to go with the guys that got us here. And I'm feeling the same thing with Missoula. It's like, yeah, you got your starters, your core guys, but the strength of your team all season was your depth. This thing that none of us saw coming, and why so many looked at it as a gap year, because they didn't believe in Jordan Walsh or Gonzalez or Shireman. But those guys are the reason they were a 2 seed. They contributed. One day it was this guy, one day it was that guy. You get to the playoffs and you immediately say, all right, you guys just stay over there. We're going to handle this now. And it's like, no, this is how you got here, and this is how you're going to win going forward. You have to make that adjustment and find a way to incorporate these guys into the game. You don't got to play all 5 at the same time, but find a way to get Shireman, Gonzalez, Walsh, some burn here or there to kind of get your team going back to being what they were for the 82 games.
And Chris, Cerrone was making the case earlier, too, that Gonzalez is their best on-ball defender. No one's been able to keep up with Tyrese Maxey. Like, give him more than, what did you say, Hurley? He's played 6 minutes in this series?
Didn't play the other night. Last night.
Yeah, he kind of fell out of the rotation towards the end of the year, and then they get to the playoffs. And it seems like in this one they're going with Jordan Walsh over him because Walsh traditionally has done a good job on Maxey. He got caught, I think, on a couple of screens, obviously, last night, and that's been an issue. But you can certainly make a case if you want to switch that up and put Ugo in. Luka Garza is the guy for me because I think in Shireman, I'd like to see more of Shireman.
Yeah, Shireman's a hooper.
Yeah, especially on nights where maybe Pritchard or White or both of them, like last night, don't have it. Then give Shireman a little bit more, or Hauser, Shireman instead of Hauser. Sometimes I don't understand sort of the constitutional right for Hauser to get minutes and be on the floor. I don't really get that sometimes. But Garza's the guy in terms of Vucevic is not giving you much in this series. Garza is at least difficult to play against. I know it's a mismatch against Embiid, but they're all mismatches against Embiid, which leads me to something that I knew was going to happen, and I talked about during the year, which is that Kate is a foul machine. I mean, Cerrone, you're dead on when you talk about there being a difference between regular season basketball and the playoffs. There is no greater example than Neemias Queta, who was outstanding during the regular season, but even during the regular season, he had foul issues. He couldn't stay on the floor. And in this series, it's just absurd. It's like the ball is tipped and he's immediately in foul trouble. And so if that's going to be the case, then somebody like Garza, who at least is difficult to play against, can knock down some threes, will stick his nose in there and offensive rebound. That's a guy that I think could give you a little bit more energy and give you a little bit more than what you're getting out of your bigs.
24 fouls, 18 made shots for Neemias Queta.
I mean, it's just, and it was, if you looked at the stats, in terms of fouls per, 36 minutes, you could kind of see this one coming. Now, I didn't think it would be quite this bad, but that was one of the major questions about this team before they started the playoffs is, can Queta stay on the floor? And it's been a resounding no. Like, I knew it was going to be a challenge. I never dreamed it would be this bad. I mean, this is ridiculous. He's almost a complete non-factor because he can't stay on the floor. And then when he is on the floor, he's already in foul trouble. So he is hesitant and he's not making the same plays he made most of the year.
What I was going to add to that is last season against the Knicks, that series, I think the big factor to me in that one is he had three-point shooting, of course, but they didn't get anything from
Horford and Porzingis.
Horford and Porzingis, I think, combined for like 10 points and 5 rebounds in that series. They got nothing out of them, and we were doing the same screaming for give Luke Cornett some minutes. The last game of the series, he throws Cornett out there as a starter, and I think he has his best game of the season. No, it wasn't the last game. It was the game they won.
Yeah, it was game 5 in Boston.
Yeah, he came out and it was like Cornett, he brought them energy and everything, but by then Tatum was hurt and they really couldn't overcome it. It's the same situation, I think, with Garza. You can see they have to go in another direction here. Somebody that's going to give them some kind of energy and his ability to stretch the floor, pulls and beat away. And he has fundamental skill as well. The guy was, I believe, National Player of the Year before he was in college. He has a fundamental skill set. He can make his free throws. He can shoot the jump shot. He's a smart basketball player. But for some reason, it's like, I just got to bury you down there because I got to go with my guy. And I think that could get this team put out of the playoffs.
Jerry with a thought on Joe Mazzulla. Jerry, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Very good. Go ahead, Jerry.
Jim, I got to commend you for a stellar job. And Cerrone, I agree with every single thing you have said. Who was more trash talking than Larry Bird? I'm 83 years old. I go way back. They need, and I remember Kevin McHale clotheslining Kurt Rambis.
Of course.
I mean, that was a blatant takedown. Cerrone, you're on cue, and if I want to watch a 3-point contest, I'll tune in on the All-Star game. Thanks, Jim. Thank God we don't hear Felger's whee. So, any rate, keep up the good work. Go Celtics. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate the phone call.
I'd say real quick to that point with the famous clothesline. That clothesline didn't happen because Kevin McHale was like, I'm just going to take him out.
No, it was to fire up the whole...
The whole coaching staff was like, if anybody else allows another layup, there's going to be a problem. That was a message from the coaching.
And Bird called the guys out. He called the whole team out. I forget what the word he used, but I think it was either wusses or...
Sissies.
Sissies, was that what he called them? Yeah, a bunch of sissies. He called out like the whole team.
Yeah, I mean, it was a message from not from the top, but from an organizational message like, hey, we got to do something to fight back. And I think that's what's missing in this series.
I did just want to say it, and if Jim, if you and Cerrone and Michael, if you want to get to this after this, obviously it'd be so disappointing if the Celtics were out in the first round. It would be a catastrophe. But really, you'd have to step back and look at the Tatum and Brown era, too, and say, how many times have they squandered something? How many times have they lost to a team that was lesser than them? There's a little bit of like a legacy, and they have a long way to go.
Oh, totally. Oh, right
but there's
now.
a little bit of like the legacy thing here in terms of if you lose this series. I mean, I'll say this. If they lose this series, I think this is worse than losing the Eastern Conference Finals to the Heat in 2023. Yeah. And obviously they battled back from 3-0 down. You get to Game 7. I know, Tatum got hurt, so at that point he gets a pass, and Brown was terrible in that game. He had, as many made baskets as turnovers, 8 and 8. But if you blow this one, like, to me, that's worse than what blowing that Miami game. Last year you lost to, I think, a team you were better than. And again, people write that off because Tatum got hurt, but they were already on their way to losing the series. The NBA Finals, yes, the Warriors are an all-time great team, but you were the better team in 2022, and they kind of Jedi mind tricked you. Like, you have a tendency / reputation for losing series to teams that you should beat.
Oh, they've been around this franchise for 80 years, whatever the hell it is. They've never blown a 3-1 series lead. It would be catastrophic, historic, whatever you want to call it. It would be all-time terrible if they lose this tomorrow night.
And that Warriors series, the finals, you were up 2-1 at home with a fourth quarter lead. You could have put the Warriors away and been up 3-1. That would have been a wrap. And you could be sitting at, multiple championships, but you blew that. And there's one more they blew that doesn't get talked about enough. In the bubble.
Yeah.
Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat. Yeah. They were in the bubble. They were a better team, and you had the Bam Adebayo block. But Kemba Walker decided not to play, and that's it was a lot that happened, but they were better than Miami in the bubble, and they would have had a shot.
That's a good point, because I remember Danny Ainge came on this radio station and said that the Celtics, after they lost that series, said that the Celtics were the better team. So, yeah, that's another one. That's another one you throw in there. If they lose, but just telling you sort of what the stakes are. I think the stakes are bigger than just this year. It's bigger than sort of blowing another opportunity with Tatum and Brown, and hopefully that goes on for another 5 or 6 years. But, I mean, who knows with injuries and contracts. And it's also sort of this legacy thing or this reputational thing where why do you keep losing the teams you should beat?
And as long as we're reliving all those, that Heat series 3 years ago, they didn't even belong in a Game 7. That was an awful final possession by Marcus Smart that Derek White flew from the heavens for that tip-in to force the Game 7. So they didn't even belong in a Game 7.
Johnny, he's got a castle in Brooklyn. That's where he dwells. He has a thought on the Celtics. Hello, Johnny.
Thanks so much for the call, guys. I actually disagree. I think that, the Sixers with a healthy Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey are a better team than this Celtics team, especially with Derek White playing as bad as he is. So, for them to lose up 3-1, I mean, I would just put an asterisk to say that, Game 5, you get Embiid back, and he's been great. And I think that Vucevic trade has been a disaster. And I think the Sixers are the better team now. It's a bummer, but this was Celtics team that totally overperformed this regular season, and now they're going against a real team that's better than them, and they're losing. That's my thoughts, guys. Thanks.
There's certainly been some fair relitigation on some of the moves. Did they miss Anthony Simon when Brown and Tatum, can't make a shot to save their lives in the fourth quarter in the game prior in this series? Do you miss someone like Al Horford, who always did a good job against Joel Embiid in the past? But I know he was showing his age last year too. But these are the things. These are the things you got to have to deal with, Celtics.
But you were up, even with all that stuff.
Yeah,
you were up 3-1.
Right.
Thank you.
You were up 3-1 with all those deficiencies. Yeah, you can feel your way about Vucevic, whatever. No one ever said he's better than Embiid, and none of these guys get better than Embiid. Imagine if you only had Neemias Queta to play center. Where would you be right now? But you had a 3-1 lead in this series. I don't want to hear that. You lose 3 in a row against this team is a disappointment. No, the Sixers are not a better basketball team. They're just playing better basketball right now.
I agree. And I'm surprised, a little surprised that you didn't call that out, Jim, because that was peak Celtic fan right there. Oh, we blow a 3-1 lead. Well, no big deal.
Sometimes you're the 7 seed, guys,
No.
The other team was better. Embiid came back. Well, actually, he came back in Game 4, and you blew him out by 32. But we'll pretend he came back in Game 5, and that's really what. Well, they had a great season. Nobody expected this. I'm just a little confused. Didn't you get Jayson Tatum back? Don't you guys spend so much time for 5 years telling me he's the best player in the league and face of the league? So you got that guy back with a 16-game ramp-up, and he's playing well in this series. But because Embiid came back, Joel Embiid, I guess I missed the part where Embiid won a bunch of championships or even got to a finals. I guess I missed that. But, Embiid's one of the great winners, apparently, in the history of the NBA. But because he came back, it's like, well, what were the Celtics to do? You're just sort of, and the 13-point lead they had in Game 5, I mean, forget about that. That doesn't matter. You know why? Because the Sixers have Embiid and roided up Paul George. So what are they going to do? What are they going to do? It's all house money, right?
Steven.
I mean, that's absurd.
Steven Chatham, you're next.
Hi, guys. I've been a Celtics fan. I love them since I was a kid growing up in New Jersey, but I dislike this team. I dislike Tatum and Brown. And I just wonder, I think their egos are inflated and they just crumble in the most crucial moments. And I just wonder what this team would be like if we actually had a point guard instead of Tatum, pounding the ball into the hardwood and Brown trying to take the ball up 90 feet on his own, stumbling and bumbling all over the place.
So you prefer Kemba Walker and Kyrie Irving in those days? No, thanks. No.
A lot of people call and always bring that up. Oh, they need to get a true point guard. They don't exist anymore. They're gone. It's like asking for, a Ray Lewis middle linebacker or a fullback now. They don't exist. Sports every major sport has taken away something, a key thing to that game. And in basketball, you don't see the center like you used to, and the true floor general is dead and gone. And unfortunately, I hate it. All these teams, the superstar player, no matter what the position, is the high usage guy. Jokic is the one bringing the ball up for the Denver Nuggets. You got Jamal Murray. Jokic is the one that handles the ball the most. It's the modern game. It's not just the Celtics. And Tatum and Brown have had big playoff games. I've seen Tatum give KD 50. We've talked about him giving the Sixers 50 in Game 7. Going into Milwaukee, giving Giannis 40 and 50 in games. We've seen him have these big games and big moments. This is just a disappointing series because we expected them to light this team up, and they should be lighting them up, but they're playing bad ball this last 2 weeks.
Scott and Canton, hello.
2 questions. Number 1, what do you think is going to happen to the Celtics tomorrow night? And number 2, do you think the Celtics are going to beat Philly tomorrow?
What's one question that was really just 2 different ways. I do think that they win tomorrow night, I think.
I think they might win by 30.
I thought that what was going to happen last night.
And then you just say, well, what the hell? But you have serious doubts next round.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now I definitely – so I thought it was a formality, Chris Gasper. They were getting out of the East. Now I would fully expect them to lose to the Knicks again, I think.
You know what? I don't trust the Knicks. For some reason, last year I thought they were a good basketball team. I thought Thibodeau's style, his coaching style, and their defense was legit. I don't see the defensive energy from them at all. I think the Celtics took the Sixers team. We'll beat them. Like they did Orlando last year. Like they did Atlanta a couple years ago.
They're going to do it again.
The Hawks. I think the Knicks, but I think the Knicks, they look at them as a real formidable opponent that could beat them. I think Philly, they just took them for granted. They'd beat them by 30, so that made them really say, oh, maybe. And then they beat them again by 30. So I think they're just not taking them seriously, but I think they'll take the Knicks if they win tomorrow. I think they'll take the Knicks pretty seriously, and I'm not buying the Knicks 50-point win or whatever against Atlanta. I'm not using that for them, no matter who they play in the next round.
That was a tough one for you, Jim, huh? Your Hawks, they really got beat.
I'll tell you, that was a real Atlanta sports special. Anytime you expect any bum team from that suck city to show up, they're going to let you down.
Did you see the clip, Jim? I don't know what they call it.
Oh, the
swag sway or something.
When they're down 50.
Between the third and fourth quarter, they have
one of the saddest things I've ever seen.
Do this, and like 8 people in the crowd are like, yeah, yep, it's 100-7.
Chris, in about a minute here. So, you expect them to win tomorrow night? Yes,
I do. I do expect them to win because the other thing we talked about, something that is part of their resume during this incredible run with Tatum and Brown, which is getting themselves into scenarios where they lose to teams they should beat, but also part of that is saving their best basketball for when their back's against the wall. And I think that their back is obviously against the wall. It's game 7. It's hard for me to fathom, unless Tatum is really injured, that they're going to go in this series and lose 3 of the 4 games on their floor, as well as blowing a 3-1 lead. It's just hard for me to envision that overall. And I also sort of need to see it from Embiid. I mean, he's a great player, but he hasn't beaten the Celtics in a playoff series, and he hasn't really been able to rise to the occasion in these moments throughout the course of his career. He's had some great games. He's a great player. He's won an MVP, but it's not like he's known for coming through in these moments.
And if you would, 30 seconds on your Boston Red Sox, who have a new interim manager and blew things up, and boy, made a lot of news here in the last 6 or 7 days.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just sort of a continuation of a path that they've taken this decade, which is about processes and process over people. And at the end of the day, whatever you think of Alex Cora, and if you want to say it was time to move on because he's not a fit with what Breslow wants to do, that's fine. But then what you have to admit is if Cora's not a fit for this team, then this isn't a contending team. That's essentially what you're saying, is that Cora, if he's someone that doesn't want to have to teach kids who don't know how to play baseball on the fly, he's not the right fit. You have to get another manager. Then you're not a contending team, because contending teams don't have to teach a good chunk of the roster how to play the game on the fly. They're not in player development mode. And this is just more sort of Breslow and his overall belief that rather than having to go out and pay the freight for the types of players you need to contend, you can just take guys and turn them into the type of players that you need to contend. And if you don't do that, it's not a misevaluation of the talent. It is a lack of performance by the coaching staff. They didn't follow the program. They didn't follow the directions the way that they were supposed to, and that's the issue, when it's really not.
All right, pal. It'll be you and Tim McCone tomorrow. We will reconvene for Gasper and Murray the following Saturday.
I thought maybe because it was Game 7, you'd reconsider, to say, hey, I got to come in, do the Sports Hub Celtics show. It's a Game 7.
No. It was already on the books. There was nothing we could do about it. All right, Chris. Gasper and McCone starting 11 a.m. tomorrow morning here on 98.5 Sports Hub. Take care.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You as well. All right, final hour of the show coming up after this break, and then the headlines with I almost called you Matt McCarthy.
Hey.
Michael Hurley coming up, and more of your phone calls. One open line you want to join us, 617-779-0985.